I had this client, a doctor pulling in $250,000 a year, and he sat across from me in my office and he was absolutely terrified. He said, I have the dream income, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck and I'm scared I'll never be able to retire. He was a classic case of the high earner, not rich yet trap. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact steps we took to get him out of it and how you can do the same. If that story hits a little too close to home, you are definitely not alone. There's a name for this exact situation, Henry. It's an acronym for high earner, not rich yet. And Henrys are people who make a great income, usually between $100,000 and $500,000 a year, but have almost nothing to show for it in terms of actual wealth. They're the working rich. Their status is tied directly to their job, not to the assets that they own. An income of $250,000 a year puts a household firmly in the top 5 to 10% of earners in the United States. On paper, that's the definition of success. It's the income people dream about, the number that's supposed to make all of your money problems disappear. And yet, for a number of doctors, lawyers, software engineers, and other professionals, it feels more like a golden cage. You have all of the shiny objects of wealth. You have the nice house, the premium car, the impressive job title. But under the surface, you're just running on a financial treadmill, working harder and harder to stay in the exact same place. This feeling is confusing, and honestly, it often comes with a side of shame. How in the world are you supposed to admit to anyone that you make $250,000 and still feel broke? See, the problem isn't how much you earn. The problem is that our culture and even our own brains are perfectly wired to strip that money away before it ever gets a chance to grow into real, lasting wealth. My doctor client was a perfect example. He was doing everything he thought he was supposed to do. He had the prestigious, demanding job, a beautiful home in a nice, fancy neighborhood, and his kids were at a great private school. But his savings account was basically empty, and his debt, it was creeping up. He was trapped, and he had no idea how he even got there. How does this actually happen? How can an income that puts you in the top tier of earners leave you feeling so fragile? It really boils down to a few powerful forces that create this perfect storm for the Henry trap. The first, and probably the sneakiest, is something called lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep. This is the thing that happens where your spending just sort of expands to meet your bigger income. It's so subtle that you barely even notice it. You get a raise and suddenly a bigger apartment in a cooler neighborhood feels totally justified. A bonus hits your account and now you're all of a sudden you're upgrading from a Toyota to a Lexus because it feels like a reward that you've earned. And before you know it, things that used to be luxuries start feeling like necessities. For my doctor client, it started with the house. When his income crossed the $200,000 mark, he and his wife bought a home they could just barely afford. But a house isn't a one-time purchase. It came with higher property taxes, more expensive repairs, and the pressure to fill it with nice furniture. Then, all of a sudden came the 2 payments for 2 brand new luxury SUVs to fit the neighborhood. Then came the private school tuition because they felt like they had to keep up with their neighbors. Every single decision seemed reasonable at the time, but together, they built a mountain of fixed expenses that ate up almost his entire paycheck. He was stuck on what I call the lifestyle escalator. It was always going up, but never getting ahead. This is the number one reason high earners can't save. There's just nothing left at the end of the month. The second force is the brutal 1-2 punch of taxes and debt. As your income goes up, so does your taxes. But it's not just that. You also start losing the tax breaks that were available to you when you earned less. It creates this bizarre situation where a raise can lead to a surprisingly small jump in your take-home pay, what some people call a shadow tax. It always feels like you're being punished for succeeding. And then there's the debt. Many high-paying jobs like medicine and law require years of ridiculously expensive education, leaving new grads with a staggering student loan balance. My client started his career with over $200,000 in medical school debt, which is actually pretty average. That's like starting a race 100 yards behind everyone else. And when you add a huge mortgage and car loans to that, a massive chunk of your income is already spoken for before you even get to think about investing. Your cash flow is being eaten alive by liabilities, stopping you from ever building your asset column. This is why so many Henrys have a shockingly low or even negative net worth despite making six figures. Finally, there's the psychological and societal pressure. Let's be real, we're all human. We're wired to compare ourselves to others. And when you're a high earner, you tend to hang out with other high earners. This creates a massive keeping up with the Joneses effect. You see your coworkers posting photos from their European vacations and you feel that pull to do the same exact thing. Your friends are all joining local country clubs and you start to wonder if you're missing out. This isn't just being materialistic. It's a deep need to belong and to show the world that you've made it. And luxury brands are experts at targeting Henrys for this exact reason. The constant pressure makes it incredibly hard to live below your means, which is the boring foundational secret to actually building wealth. You end up spending not for your own happiness, but to match the expectations of everyone else around you. When you combine these forces, you get a powerful trap. But just understanding how the trap works is the first step to getting out of it. If you're feeling a little freaked out right now, that's okay. The first step to taking control is just getting some clarity. As a simple exercise, I want you to pause and think about one thing you bought last month that was more about what other people think than what you genuinely wanted. Just recognizing that is a huge win. And if you're serious about escaping, stick with me because now we're getting to the good part, the escape plan. When my client laid all of this out, he felt hopeless. But I told him what I'm telling you now. This is a solvable problem. You have the most powerful wealth building tool there is, a high income. You just need to tell it where to go. So we created a 3-step plan to systematically break him out of this trap. First, we got brutally honest about where his money was actually going, not where he thought it was going. You can't change what you don't measure. We tracked every single dollar for 1 month, and the results were a wake-up call. He found thousands of dollars in what I call spending leaks, those forgotten subscriptions, the late-night Amazon purchases, and way more takeout than he realized. Once you know your numbers, you create a new plan based on your priorities, not your impulses. You might have heard people talk about the 50-30-20 rule, but for high earners, I suggest getting way more aggressive. Try to live on 50 to 60% of your take-home pay and slam at least 20 to 30% directly into savings and investments. The secret to making this work is to pay yourself first, and the only way to do that every single time is through automation. So, we set up an automatic transfer to a high-yield savings account and an investment account for the day right after his paycheck landed. This is so important. The money for your future needs to be gone before you even have a chance to miss it. When you automate it, you take willpower and emotion out of the picture. You're building wealth on autopilot. With those spending leaks plugged, we redirected that newfound cash flow like a fire hose at its highest interest debt. For most people, that means credit cards first, then personal loans, then student loans. This is what we call the debt avalanche method, and it's the fastest way to get out of debt mathematically. Getting rid of a 25% interest credit card is almost like getting a guaranteed 25% return on your money. At the same time, you have to create a rule for every dollar you make in the future. This is a non-negotiable, and it's a rule to help you escape the Henry trap. What I mean by this is the very first dollar of every future raise, bonus, or side hustle goes directly to your savings and investments. Don't even let it touch your checking account. This one habit is the ultimate cure for lifestyle inflation. It lets you crank up your savings rate over time while still allowing for a few small, intentional lifestyle upgrades, instead of just letting your spending drift up unconsciously. Saving money is for safety, investing money is for freedom. A lot of high earners mess this up. They either let their money pile up in a savings account where inflation eats it for lunch, or they gamble on speculative things like individual stocks or crypto, hoping to strike it rich. Both are losing strategies. Your goal isn't to time the market or to find the next big thing. Your goal is to build a diversified, low-cost portfolio of assets that grow your wealth and that contribute to it consistently like clockwork. For most people, the easiest and most effective way to do this is with broad market index funds or ETFs. These funds let you own a tiny piece of hundreds or thousands of the world's best companies, all in one simple investment. We maxed out my clients' tax advantage accounts first, like his 401k and a backdoor Roth IRA. Then we automated a monthly investment into simple 3-fund portfolio in a regular brokerage account. Every single month, a piece of his income was out there buying assets for him. He wasn't trying to outsmart the market. He was just using his high income to buy the market month after month. This is how real wealth is built, not with frantic energy, but with relentless consistency. Just 1 year after starting this plan, my client's financial life was completely different. He paid off all of his credit cards. He built a 6-month emergency fund and was automatically investing over 25% of his gross income. For the first time, he felt in control. That fear was gone, and in its place was a quiet confidence. He was no longer just a high earner. He was on the path to becoming wealthy. Escaping the Henry trap isn't about depriving yourself. It's about being intentional. It's about consciously deciding what kind of life you want and then aiming your powerful income at that vision instead of letting it get drained away by social pressure and mindless spending. It's about building a life where you have options, the option to switch careers, to work less, to one day retire without being afraid. You've already got the income. Now it's time to build the wealth.